Imagine an invisible place, a secret bank that exists within you, where the true treasures are not counted in coins or bills, but in thoughts, beliefs, and desires. This is the bank of the subconscious, a sacred space where every idea, every feeling, and every intention has the power to create your reality. Inspired by the timeless wisdom of Joseph Murphy, this text invites you to discover the invisible law that governs abundance, the silent force that moves the universe and responds to what you hold deep within your mind. Here there are no magic formulas or impossible paths, only a key that opens the door to prosperity and well-being, your own subconscious mind. Prepare for a fascinating journey where you will learn to connect with this limitless source of inner power, transform your thoughts into tangible results, and understand how abundance flows to those who know how to ask and receive. Every word you hear is a deposit of knowledge. Every pause, an opportunity to plant the seed of prosperity in your life. This is not just any text. It is an invitation to awaken, to believe, and to create, to step into the bank of the subconscious and discover the invisible law of abundance that has always been waiting for you. There is a silent law that governs every aspect of your life, even if you do not see it or name it. It does not appear in the headlines. It is not taught in ordinary schools. It is not mentioned in economic talks, yet it operates with more precision than any accounting formula. It is the law of the mind, more specifically, the law of consciousness. It determines whether you live in scarcity or in expansion, whether you receive with joy or fear loss, whether you flow with good or stagnate in fear. This invisible law is the guiding principle of abundance. Many believe that abundance is a matter of luck, inheritance, or physical effort. They strive, prepare, adapt, but still struggle. And that is because abundance does not respond to external noise, but to inner order. It is a natural flow of the spirit that only activates when the mind stops resisting and begins to accept. Abundance is not having more, but knowing that what is necessary always arrives. It is not a number in a bank account, but a certainty that does not waver in the face of circumstances. It is peace while acting, it is rest while sowing. Outer wealth is only a shadow of true provision. There may be large houses, expensive suits, abundant meals, and yet a fearful mind, a tense life, a constant feeling of never enough. That is not abundance. That is empty exaggeration. On the other hand, there may be a simple economy, a modest income, but a serene mind, grateful and attentive to every sign of good. That is true provision. Throughout this book, I will not speak to you about passing formulas or methods to attract money quickly. I will speak of eternal laws, tested truths, real testimonies. I will invite you to cultivate a fertile mental soil where the ideas of wealth can be sown, grow, and manifest without forced effort. Your mind is that soil. Every thought is a seed. Every word is a watering. Every sustained image is a root that descends, and your visible reality is nothing more than the natural harvest of what you have cultivated within. If you are willing to leave scarcity thinking behind, if you want to live according to the law of the Spirit rather than according to statistics, if you desire not only to earn money, but to understand your purpose, this path is for you. And it all begins, as always, with a single mental seed, the invisible law of abundance. Based on the teachings of Joseph Murphy, we have noticed that more than 80% of visitors to our channel are not subscribed. You can support this project by pressing the subscribe button and liking the video. Thank you for inspiring us to keep creating more and better content for you. Are you ready to transform your life? Chapter 1. The Mental Origin of All Wealth. Everything begins with an idea. The mental image is a seed, re-educating consciousness from there is none to I have. Resource, daily declaration of provision. The starting point of all visible manifestations of wealth is not found in gold bars stored in bank vaults, nor in the exact figure on a bank statement, nor in the furniture or real estate that human eyes can inventory. Wealth in its purest essence is not an object, it is a state of mind. Every outer reality has an invisible origin that cannot be measured by the physical senses, yet its influence determines, without error, the material conditions of the individual. This law admits no exceptions. Just as a seed contains within it all the genetic information to become a full-grown tree, so too does every idea planted in the mind contain the invisible pattern of its future manifestation. Those who understand this law and act in accordance with it hold the key to abundance. Those who ignore it or mock it unconsciously repeat the patterns of scarcity implanted in their consciousness by others since childhood. The fundamental mistake of the average person is to assume that money, opportunities, or connections are the causes of prosperity. But the truth revealed by all the sages who have worked in harmony with the mental laws of the spirit is that these things are effects. The cause is invisible. The cause is mental. The cause is the image you firmly hold in the depths of your consciousness, through repetition, conviction, or fear. Just as a mirror can only reflect the figure presented to it, the external world can offer you nothing more than the inner image you project through your habitual thought. Anyone who wishes to prosper must abandon the superstition of external facts and begin to govern their inner world with authority. There is no other path, no shortcuts, no exceptions to this law. You may ignore it, but you cannot escape its effects. Everything around you has been produced by it, whether you realize it or not. Wealth does not begin with a check. It begins with a clearly formulated idea. Gold, currency, assets, jobs, and opportunities are mutable forms. The idea is the immutable substance. That is why the mental image you hold with faith and persistence is the seed that determines the harvest. Here we are not talking about mere positive thinking, but subconscious impregnation, which is something entirely different. Thinking is easy. Imagining with sustained emotion, that is sowing. A lady I helped years ago told me that for 20 years she had worked in a job she hated, earning a low salary and enduring constant humiliation. She said, "I've made affirmations, I've prayed, I've read books about the mind, and nothing changes." I replied, "You have read, yes, but you haven't sown. You prayed with your lips, but not with the image. You repeated words, but you did not form a clear idea of abundance, supported by the emotion of already having it." 3 months later, after seriously applying the technique I explained, she resigned from her job effortlessly, started a small consulting service from home, and in less than a year, her income had increased 5-fold. What changed? Not the world. Her mental image changed. The mental image is the invisible seed that produces all visible fruits. When you think of scarcity, debt, or limitation, even to complain, you are sowing. And since the law of the mind reproduces according to its kind, you will reap more of the same. Not because life punishes you, but because your mind cannot differentiate between what you desire and what you fear if both are charged with the same emotion. What you imagine intensely you accept as real, and what you accept as real your subconscious mind executes without delay. That is why many people spend years wanting abundance with their conscious mind, while their subconscious reproduces over and over the old programming of "I don't have, I can't, this is for others." The mind does not respond to what you want, it responds to what you believe, and your belief is determined by the mental image you hold the longest, the deepest, and with the greatest emotional charge. Now, how is this mental image formed? Through repetition, emotion, and spoken word. You cannot plant an idea in your subconscious with a single affirmation spoken without feeling. But if you repeat an image with emotion, if you charge it with gratitude as if you already possess it, if you reinforce it with harmonious words, if you hold it with conviction, your subconscious adopts it as a pattern. And the mental law begins to move invisible causes so that it may express itself in the physical plane. That is why I insist so much on the exercise of the daily declaration of provision. Every time you affirm your wealth with faith, you are sculpting a new image in your deep mind. It is not about mechanical repetition, it is about planting a living certainty. It is not empty autosuggestion, it is spiritual re-education. Use this resource now. Every morning before speaking to anyone, say clearly, slowly, and with pauses, "I give thanks because today I receive perfectly and orderly all the provision I need. All good flows to me with ease. I am surrounded by opportunities, channels, and people who bless my life. I am prosperous within, and this is reflected without. God is my source, and in Him there is no lack." Then close your eyes for a minute and visualize without tension a clear symbol of abundance, a signed check, a full wallet, a satisfied client, a closed deal, a paid-off debt. Do not imagine how it will happen, only see the result. The how belongs to the wisdom of the subconscious. At night before sleeping, repeat the same formula. Practice it for 21 days without interruption, impatience, or skepticism. Remember, you are not speaking to a distant God or an impersonal universe. You are rewriting the program of your subconscious, your silent partner, your storehouse of images, your receiver of all emotionally impressed ideas. If today you live in lack, do not punish yourself. Understand that you have been sowing wrong ideas, often unknowingly. But the soil holds no grudge. The soil responds to the seed. Sow well, and the harvest will be good. Sow faith, and the harvest will be abundance. Sow gratitude, and the harvest will be multiplication. Do not let newspaper headlines, market statistics, or complaints from your surroundings define your mental climate. You are not here to repeat the poverty of your lineage, suffer the conditions of your environment, or wait for luck to bring you fortune. You are here to think with direction, imagine with purpose, and declare with authority. You are not an empty vessel waiting to be filled. You are an inner source that can make wealth flow in any terrain. The invisible already exists. Your task is to make it visible, and that begins today with a single seed, a clear, fertile idea held firmly. Are you ready to sow it? Chapter 2, The Mental Tithe, a Law of Circulation, Giving the Spirit the Best of Your Attention. The tithe as a discipline of focus and gratitude. Examples of transformation through the mental tithe. Resource, Practical Mental Tithe Worksheet, visual and written. When the scriptures speak of the tithe as a divine command, many interpret it mechanically and externally, giving a percentage of material income to a religious institution, as if the mere act of giving money automatically activates the spiritual law. But those who understand the inner science of the mind and the circulation of good know that the true tithe is not a bank transfer or a coin dropped into a collection basket. It is an internal discipline, a conscious orientation, a mental tribute to the principle of good that resides deep within consciousness. The mental tithe is not measured in bills but in attention. It is the daily practice of offering the best of our thought to the Spirit, the first of our focus, the purest of our gratitude. And when this practice is carried out with understanding and consistency, it sets in motion the law of circulation, which is the very law of life. Everything that is alive circulates. Blood flows, air moves, water runs, sap rises and falls in trees. Nothing that remains in permanent stillness prospers. Life does not retain, it distributes. Life does not accumulate, it shares. Life does not block, it flows. Therefore, if you wish to enter the sacred circuit of abundance, you must understand that the secret is not in taking, but in giving. But not giving from fear, obligation, or the superstitious belief that you will be punished if you do not. The giving that opens channels is not done under external pressure, but from a mind that recognizes the invisible source of all good. And that giving begins before the wallet, in the thought. The mental tithe consists of setting aside each day a deliberate portion of our mental energy and dedicating it to the recognition of good. It means that before thinking of debts, tasks, news, or worldly conversations, you pause your mind and say, first the Spirit, first the invisible, first the source. It is an act of internal alignment. A lady once told me, I don't have money to tithe, but I can think in gratitude every morning. I replied, then you are richer than many who give their tithe in cash, but do so with fear and without awareness. Your mental tithe will open channels you cannot imagine. And so it was. 3 weeks later, she found an old professional contact who hired her for a project that paid 10 times more than she had earned the previous month. What changed was not her luck, it was her mental direction. And where the mind changes, manifestation changes. Another example, a young architect who had lost his job during an economic crisis decided to start his day dedicating the first 15 minutes, not to checking emails or thinking about his situation, but to declaring with faith, all the good in the universe flows to me. I am an open channel of provision. I am not limited by the market or the economy. I am governed by the law of circulation of the Spirit. Instead of cursing his circumstances, he blessed the source. Instead of complaining, he gave thanks in advance. And in doing so, he fulfilled an eternal principle. Give before receiving. Give thought. Give focus. Give gratitude. Give vision. This is the true tithe that multiplies. 2 months later, he had opened his own studio with 3 partners, not because he forced the conditions, but because he activated a law. Why does the mental tithe produce such results? Because it frees the mind from fear of scarcity. The one who gives mentally, first to the Spirit, is declaring through action that the source of provision is not their salary boss, the market, or the state, but the invisible intelligence that created it. And that declaration, held with conviction, imprints a new programming in the subconscious. The mind that tithes does not expect lack. It expects circulation. It does not fear loss because it has already given internally. It does not compete because it knows its good cannot be withheld by anyone. That mind is aligned with the law of giving and receiving, and therefore enters into rhythm with universal abundance. The most common error is wanting to receive first and then give. But the mental law requires that the order be reversed. First the inner act of giving, then the external manifestation of good. Just as a seed does not demand to see the fruit before being buried in the soil, your mind must sow the image of gratitude, certainty, and provision before expecting any visible form. In this sense, the tithe is an act of practical faith, not abstract faith, but operational trust, expressed in time, attention, and directed thought. You can apply this law starting today. Here is a practical mental tithe worksheet to follow every morning for 21 consecutive days without interruption or hurry. Breathe deeply 3 times, saying internally, "I am in the presence of the infinite source." Declare aloud or mentally if you prefer, "I dedicate this moment to the Spirit. I give thanks for the invisible provision already flowing to me. Today I give the best of my thought, attention, and intention to the good I create. I am a free and open channel for the circulation of all that is good. Nothing is lacking in my life, for God is my supply." Visualize for 2 minutes a scene that represents abundance, a positive bank account, a successful business, a table full of food, a call with good financial news. Give thanks as if it were already reality. Feel it, acknowledge it. Open your eyes and begin your day with this inner phrase, "I have given the best to the Spirit. Now I receive the best from the universe." Do not skip this exercise. Do not do it half-heartedly. Do not repeat it as an empty ritual. Each day you are retraining your mind to live in the law of circulation. If you do it consciously, the law will respond because the invisible never sleeps. The Spirit does not need your money. It needs your alignment, and the mind that aligns inevitably prospers. The mental tithe is therefore much more than a pious practice. It is a spiritual technology, a silent tool that frees the mind from old limitation thinking and connects it to the universal circuit of inexhaustible good. By practicing it, you do not earn abundance, you recognize it. And by recognizing it, you receive it. For no one can experience what they have not first accepted as possible. No one can manifest what they have not first celebrated in thought. Are you willing to give today the best of your attention to the Spirit? In the next chapter, we will discuss one of the most common distortions that blocks provision: the unconscious belief that money is bad. We will dispel this mental error and understand the true spiritual nature of money, because no one can prosper who still fears to prosper. Chapter 3. Money as a divine idea. As a divine idea, money is neither good nor bad. It is a form, transcending criticism of money and cleansing it mentally. Your subconscious needs blessings, not reproaches. Resource-guided reading of Proverbs chapter 10. One of the most persistent and toxic obstacles on the path to abundance is the unconscious judgment about money. Thousands of men and women, even those who claim to desire prosperity, carry in their minds a negative charge associated with the concept of wealth. They believe, without saying it aloud, that money corrupts, that it is dirty, that it distances people from spirituality, that it is gained at the expense of others' suffering, or that it represents selfishness, vanity, and greed. These ideas, often inherited and unexamined, remain active in the background of consciousness, creating an inner contradiction that sabotages any attempt to manifest a prosperous life. The subconscious cannot cooperate with what you fear, criticize, or despise. If you condemn money, you repel it. If you bless it, you attract it. There is no ambiguity in this law. It is as precise as gravity. To begin untying this knot, it is necessary to understand a radical and liberating truth. Money, in itself, has no will, no morality, makes no decisions, cannot love or harm. Money is neither good nor bad. It is an instrument, a form, an external projection of a collective mental agreement about value, as innocent as a spoon or a wheel. You can use a spoon to feed or to harm. You can use a wheel to transport bread or weapons. but we do not blame the spoon or the wheel for the uses humans give them. Likewise with money. It is a form created by human thought to facilitate exchange, circulation, and the expression of value. The problem is not in the form, but in the consciousness that handles it. When you declare money is bad, you are projecting onto a neutral symbol an emotional charge born from your own belief system. And if you frequently repeat such phrases, you are feeding hostile programming in your subconscious toward what you claim to need. The inevitable result will be repulsion. Your inner mind will reject every opportunity to generate money. You will self-sabotage in business. You will feel uncomfortable receiving or even guilty when prospering. This is not black magic, it is mental conflict. No one can prosper with a mind that associates prosperity with evil. The subconscious needs blessings, not reproaches. It needs clear direction, not emotional confusion. It is time to cleanse money in your mind. To cleanse an idea is to change the judgment you hold about it. Transform the way you perceive it and bless it consciously. See money for what it truly is, a representation of circulation, service, and mental energy converted into useful form. Consider this. Every bill you receive represents a chain of human acts: work, creativity, production, distribution, trust. Every coin embodies the effort of many, the flow of ideas, the silent cooperation of millions of human beings. Money, in this sense, is circulating love, a concrete expression of value and purpose. When you see it this way, you stop fearing it and start respecting it. And where there is respect, there can be blessing. Many mistakenly cite scripture saying money is the root of all evil, but that is not what the text says. The correct phrase in 1 Timothy 6:10 is, "For the love of money is the root of all evil." That is the idolatry of the symbol, disorderly attachment, the desire that makes the form a god. But those who bless money as a means do not idolize it as an end. Those who see it as an instrument of service are not enslaved by its possession. Those who understand its spiritual nature neither fear nor chase it. They attract it as the sun attracts a well-oriented plant. A revealing case was a man who regularly attended my talks in Los Angeles. He was a modest, evangelical pastor. He said with a trembling voice, "I feel that prospering would betray my vocation. I have preached for years that money is worldly, and now that I want to improve my finances, I feel something inside resists." I replied calmly, "You do not need to abandon your faith to prosper. On the contrary, your faith must include abundance. How can you bless your community if you yourself live in lack? Isn't part of your ministry to multiply good?" I suggested he read Proverbs chapter 10 every night, replacing judgment with blessing, and bless every bill that passed through his hands. He did so for 40 days. Soon, his community began to grow. He received unexpected donations, and he founded a technical school for young people. He wrote me a letter saying, "I realized money was not the problem. It was my thinking about money that needed transformation." I now invite you to do the same exercise. Take Proverbs chapter 10. Read it slowly. Every time you encounter a statement about justice, diligence, blessing, home, inheritance, or abundance, relate those words to your own financial life. Apply this filter: this speaks to me. This promise is for my mind. This law is for my thought. For example, when you read, "The blessing of the Lord makes rich, and he adds no sorrow with it," declare, "That blessing is already in me. I do not need to add painful effort or manipulation. I only need to align my mind." Or when you read, "The hand of the diligent makes rich, but the negligent only brings poverty," affirm, "I am diligent in thought. I sow ideas of wealth and act accordingly. I am not a victim of chance. I am a farmer of good." This exercise is not symbolic, it is literal. Every biblical word, when understood through the mental law, acts as an energy capsule. Every phrase read with faith is an order to the subconscious, and every image transformed is a seed of freedom. Do not read as if reviewing ancient history. Read as if taking spiritual medicine. Apply the reading daily for 21 days. Note the phrases that resonate most within you. Write them, repeat them, meditate on them. Let your mind be infused with blessing toward money. Stop seeing it as an enemy. See it as an instrument, an ally, a temporary form of an eternal fund. Money is a divine idea, not because it is holy in itself, but because it serves holy purposes when placed at the service of good. Do not worship it, do not fear it, Do not condemn it. Use it, circulate it, bless it, and above all, purify your thinking about it, for it is not the bill that blocks your provision. It is your unconscious judgment, and by changing it, everything else will change. Are you willing to cleanse money in your mind? In the next chapter, we will discover one of the subtlest and most powerful laws of spiritual life: circulation. What does not move stagnates. What is given multiplies. You will learn to circulate good without fear and see how everything begins to return to you in new and surprising ways. Chapter 4. Circulation, the law of life. The good you give returns multiplied. Nothing stagnant prospers. Fear stops circulation. The mind as a channel that must not be blocked. Resource, daily circulation declarations, morning and night. All life in its essence is circulation. This principle can be observed in every corner of nature and in every function of the human body. The heart does not retain, it propels. The lungs do not hoard, they exchange. The digestive system does not store indefinitely, it processes and eliminates. The flowing river remains pure. Stagnant water rots. Similarly, every mind that wishes to prosper must consciously enter the flow of giving and receiving that constitutes the natural rhythm of the universe. Those who interrupt this flow through fear, greed, or distrust separate themselves, even mentally, from the circuit of universal provision. In doing so, they begin to experience scarcity, limitation, and what they mistakenly call bad luck. The mistake is thinking that security comes from holding on. True security comes from understanding the law. When you know that what you give returns multiplied, when you understand that the good you emit consciously returns through multiple channels, you begin to trust. That trust unlocks the circulation of good. There is no abundance possible in a closed mental system. The one who only wants to receive but does not give, who only accumulates but does not share, who keeps everything just in case, without sowing or circulating anything, has closed their own entryway. For the subconscious interprets, there is not enough. I must hold on. I cannot let go. And since the subconscious obeys the beliefs most deeply ingrained, it adjusts the flow to that programming. Result: stagnation, difficulty, financial pressure, loss. Giving does not mean losing. It means freeing the channel, showing your mind that you trust the law. Trusting the law is acting as if provision were unlimited, as it truly is. Circulation is a mental attitude, not an external gesture. You can give a large sum of money and still not circulate if you do so with fear, resentment, or expectation of immediate return. But you can give a small amount, or even a verbal blessing, and activate the law if you do so with joy, certainty, and gratitude. The universe responds not to the amount, but to the vibration. And vibration is determined by the intention and emotion accompanying the act. A lady I worked with told me she had spent years practicing retention under the guise of prudence. She was afraid to spend, even when she had money. She feared donating, even when she believed in the cause. She always waited for a better occasion. The result? Money entered her account but left quickly and mysteriously through unexpected events, emergencies, or technical failures. I explained, "Your mind is closed to flow. Your subconscious believes there is little and behaves as if you must protect every penny. But that protection comes from fear, not wisdom. And what arises from fear generates more fear." I suggested she start a daily act of circulation, small but voluntary. Sincerely bless every person she paid, from the cashier to the collector, saying internally, "I circulate this good with love, and it returns to me multiplied." Within a month, her attitude changed, and along with it, her income. She no longer merely retained money. She moved it, and by moving it, she multiplied it. The human mind was created to receive and give in a constant flow. But this flow only activates when consciousness is free from fear. Fear is the great blocker. It paralyzes thought, shrinks the soul, and extinguishes faith. When faith is extinguished, the channel closes. The channel is your thought. If thought is filled with doubt, no blessing can pass through. You may have opportunities in front of you, but not see them. You may receive a brilliant idea, but discard it out of insecurity. You may have a network willing to help, but you do not feel worthy of receiving. All of this arises from fear, and fear arises from mental separation from the source. If you want to activate circulation, you must begin by opening your mind to the idea that life is not closed to you. Good is not scarce. Supply is not limited. The Spirit knows no lack. Oxygen does not run out because you breathe deeply. Similarly, good does not run out because you receive more, but you must allow it in and allow it out. It is not enough to want to receive. You must create mental space to receive. And that space is created by giving, circulating, and letting go of what no longer serves, trusting that more will come. I now invite you to consciously practice this principle with the help of a simple but powerful tool: daily circulation declarations. Repeat them quietly or mentally each morning upon waking and each night before sleeping, not as a magic formula but as mental re-education. Do not expect to feel anything special. Do it as one cleans a window. At first you may not notice a change, but suddenly more light enters. Morning circulation declarations. Today is a day of perfect circulation. Everything I give with joy, faith, and gratitude. Every bill I spend, every word I speak, every service I offer is a seed of good. Nothing is lacking in my life because all good flows to me in expected and unexpected ways. I am an open channel of divine provision. Night circulation declarations. I give thanks for all that circulated through me today. Everything I gave with love is already returning to me in perfect form. I release all attachment. I trust the law of multiplied return. While I sleep, my subconscious continues to circulate good. I am part of an infinite flow of wealth. By repeating these affirmations with intention, you are programming your mind to act according to the law of flow. No matter your current financial situation, circulation begins in thought. Start where you are, with what you have, with the willingness to let go, trust, and move energy. Remember, it is not the amount, but the mindset, not the gesture, but the consciousness, not the quantity you give, but the quality with which you give. The good you give returns multiplied, but only if you give freely, only if you let go without fear, only if your mind remains open as a channel, not closed like a dam. When the channel stays clean, without judgment, complaints, or selfishness, the flow accelerates. You will see that you do not need to accumulate to feel secure. You need to circulate, because in circulation is life. You are ready to let go. In the next chapter, we will discover a deeply liberating principle: forgiveness as a provision unblocker. What you do not release emotionally, you retain materially. Where there is resentment, there is no wealth. Chapter 5. Forgiveness that unlocks abundance. Every grudge is a closed valve in your flow. True wealth flows where there is forgiveness. Clinical cases of prosperity after releasing resentment. Resource: mental prayer to forgive and open the channel. Some have learned to plant correct ideas of provision, to declare constructive words, to visualize a prosperous life with detail and emotion, and yet they do not harvest the expected results. They seem to apply everything taught about the law of thought, and still results are delayed, diluted, or fail to appear in the desired form. When this happens, in most cases, the cause is not lack of faith or incorrect technique, but an emotional blockage that acts like a closed valve in the mental channel. Resentment. Forgiveness is not simply a moral virtue or a pious act toward others. In its deepest dimension, it is an intelligent decision to unblock the circulation of good in one's own consciousness. Resentment, however invisible, generates tension, separation, and internal resistance. And where there is tension, there is no flow. The law of good requires freedom, and the soul that holds resentment is trapped by its past, tied to memories that continue to occupy mental space and emotional energy. You cannot build a new channel of provision while holding internal blocks that contradict harmony. It is impossible to prosper in an inner environment full of unresolved judgments. Every negative emotion sustained over time acts as a knot that prevents the passage of new ideas, new people, and new forms of provision. When you hold resentment, your unconscious mind interprets that you are still in danger, that you must still protect yourself, that you still cannot trust. And if you cannot trust, you cannot circulate. If you cannot circulate, you cannot receive. This is the turning point many people fail to see. Abundance is not found only in positive thinking or external action, but in emotional release that creates space for good to enter. You do not receive what you want. You receive what you are prepared for internally. Resentment prepares you for lack, not for abundance. A young woman who consulted with me shared a particularly revealing experience. She had worked for over a decade in a company without recognition or promotions, despite her competence and dedication. She said, "Something is blocking me, but I don't know what it is." Through dialogue, we discovered that for years she had held a silent resentment toward a former partner who had betrayed her in a previous venture. Although she said she had forgotten, as she recounted the event, her voice tensed, her face darkened, and her words became harsh. I explained, "It is not your current boss limiting you, but that unresolved emotion you carry inside. Until you release that memory, your subconscious will act as if the threat continues, and thus everything that comes to you will be filtered through that old wound." I suggested a daily prayer of forgiveness, not to excuse the other person's actions, but to free her soul from the tie that still held her. Within a month, her attitude visibly changed. Within 3 months, she was promoted to a managerial position with a significant salary increase, and the following year, she founded her own business. Forgiveness as a tool to unblock does not require justification from the other person. It does not demand reconciliation or forced forgetting. It does require a firm choice to release the burden. You can release without justifying. You can bless without denying the fact. You can let go without looking back. The goal is not to rewrite history, but to remove its destructive power over your energy. Every grudge is vital energy that could be circulating toward new ideas, new relationships, and new channels of provision. Every thought of resentment is a space that cannot be occupied by an idea of prosperity, and if you want abundance, you must make room for it. In my consultations, I have observed a pattern as clear as it is repeated. People who could not save, who lived on the edge, who had stagnant businesses or unexplained economic blocks, began to experience almost immediate transformations when they released pending forgiveness. One notable case was a merchant who could not increase his sales despite investing in advertising and improving his products. Everything seemed to indicate success, but something invisible was holding him back. Reviewing his history, an old dispute with his father surfaced, marked by years of silence. The man did not want to mix the personal with the economic, but his subconscious made no such distinction. He began a daily practice of silent forgiveness and visualization of reconciliation. Within 40 days, his sales tripled. The law did not fail. It was simply waiting for the channel to open. Now I want you to use this tool. It does not matter if the person that comes to mind seems irrelevant, distant, or long past. If recalling them evokes tension, judgment, discomfort, or the need for justification, there is still something to release. Practice the following mental prayer for forgiveness and opening every day for 21 days. This is not about feeling anything special. It is about planting a new program in your subconscious. Over time, you will notice the difference. Mental prayer to forgive and open the channel. I completely release name of person. I no longer hold judgment or resentment. I accept that they did the best they could with the level of consciousness they had. I bless their path, and I bless myself. I declare myself free. I release all negative emotions associated with this memory. I dissolve all mental, verbal, and emotional tension that tied me to this experience. I declare my mind open, my heart clean, and my channel ready to receive all provision the Spirit has for me. I am no longer a hostage of the past. I am a free and clean channel of abundance, peace, and harmony. By repeating this prayer, you are not only changing your relationship with the past, you are changing your relationship with life. For everything you do not forgive, you repeat. Everything you do not release, you retain, and everything you retain closes the way to good. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is stopping the burden. It is not reconciling with the other person. It is reconciling with your internal mental order. Only within that order can true prosperity flourish. A mind that holds resentment is like a field full of stones. No matter how many seeds of wealth you plant, they cannot grow in hard soil. Remove the stones, clean the land, and abundance will begin to manifest, not by chance, but by law. Are you willing to release the past to receive the present? In the next chapter, we will discover the principle of service as a multiplier of good. What you offer the world through your talent returns to you in the form of provision. Chapter 6. Serve and you will multiply. Abundance follows purpose. Service as a spiritual formula for expansion. The person who serves does not need to chase money. Resource, practical exercise. Inventory of talents to serve. At the deep structure of spiritual law, money is not a cause, it is an effect. It is not the origin of wealth, it is a consequence. Nor is it the true goal of the soul, it is a signal of circulation. That is why those who live obsessed with acquiring money often see it slip away like water through their fingers. Meanwhile, those who sincerely orient themselves towards service, who seek to give value, who offer the best of themselves with authenticity, begin to see the channels of provision open without forced effort. The reason is simple. Life responds to purpose, not to greed. Abundance is the reflection of a soul set in motion with meaning. True expansion cannot exist without service, and service is not limited to charitable acts or occasional gestures of help. Service is a way of being in the world, an inner stance. It is the conscious willingness to deliver to the environment what you know how to do, what you love to do, what you can offer with excellence, without begging for approval or pressing for reward. When you serve, you enter circulation. When you circulate, you connect with the law, and where there is law, there is result. That is why so many men and women who began serving from their most genuine vocation, without obsessively thinking about profit, ended up prospering far more than those who started by pursuing money as an end in itself. The principle is simple and universal. The value you give becomes the value you receive, not by chance or external benevolence, but because the subconscious reproduces what you hold as your dominant attitude. If your stance is one of contribution, usefulness, intelligent and orderly giving, your mind will generate ideas, connections and decisions that inevitably lead you to environments where that contribution is valued. You do not need to force success. You only need to align your mind with the channel of service. Success is not pursued, it is allowed. And it is allowed when you put yourself in the service of good. I have observed in multiple cases that economic blocks disappear when a person rediscovers their ability to serve. An engineer who had lost his job, after months of frustration, began offering free consultations to small businesses in his community. His intention was not to earn money, but to stay active and useful. Yet this attitude generated visibility, trust, and new relationships. Within 3 months, he was hired as an external consultant by a company that valued his contribution. Money came after service. Another example was a mother who, after years dedicated to her home, began teaching cooking classes to neighbors as a way to share her knowledge. In less than a year, she had opened a catering business, entirely sustained by word of mouth. The key, she did not wait for capital or the perfect plan. She began to serve with what she had, and the law responded. Now, for service to activate provision, it must follow certain principles. It must be genuine, not strategic. It must be oriented toward value, not recognition. It must arise from a consciousness of abundance, not from the desire to survive. This does not mean you work for free indefinitely. It means your initial impulse is not governed by fear or the anxiety to make money, but by the willingness to contribute from your best capacity. When that disposition becomes a habit, the subconscious adopts it as stable programming and begins producing corresponding results. Remember, it is not what you do once, but what you sustain mentally every day that shapes your economic destiny. Service is not reserved for visible professions or spectacular talents. Every human being has something to give, something they know, something they can teach, solve, or facilitate. The problem is that many underestimate their own gifts, believing they are insufficient or have no market value. But the market responds to consciousness, not a list of skills. If you underestimate what you know how to do, no one will value it. If you hide, the world will not know how to respond. If you wait to be perfect, you will never begin. Start with what you have. Serve from where you are. Do what you know how to do with love, clarity, and consistency, and the flow will begin. To help you discover this inner channel of service, I suggest a practical exercise, Inventory of Talents for Service. This inventory is not a resume. It is an intimate acknowledgement of what you already possess. Take your time, be honest. Do not omit what seems small. Do not discard what everyone knows how to do. The important thing is not the rarity of the talent, but your willingness to turn it into a channel. Practical exercise. Inventory of talents for service and natural skills. List everything you know how to do well, even without formal training. Cooking, organizing, listening, explaining, creating, designing, repairing, selling, etc. Acquired knowledge. List everything you have learned through study, experience, or practice, even if not exercised professionally. Languages, software, techniques, theories. Topics you love to discuss. Note the subjects you are passionate about, those you could talk about endlessly. These indicate potential areas of service. Activities that make you lose track of time. What absorbs you willingly reveals your natural connection with flow. Situations where others ask for your help. Identify moments when people seek your support or advice. What others recognize in you mirrors your channels of service. Once you complete this inventory, select 3 areas where you can begin serving immediately. Do not wait for a business plan. Start by contributing. Ask yourself, how can I use this gift to bless others today? Do it without expecting immediate gain, but with the inner certainty that all good circulated returns multiplied. Because that is the law. What you sow in service, you harvest in provision. Remember this truth. The person who serves does not need to chase money. Service puts you on the path of flow, and where there is flow, there is abundance. Not because the universe rewards you, but because your mind becomes fertile ground. The world pays those who solve problems, lighten burdens, and enrich experiences. If you do this, the world will respond. Are you ready to serve in order to multiply? In the next chapter, we will enter a subtler but decisive territory, the inner language that sustains or sabotages your economic reality. What you say mentally becomes law for your world. Chapter 7. God as your only source. Do not place your faith in people or jobs. Forms change, the source remains. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Psalm 23 explained. Resource, declarations of spiritual security in times of change. One of the most common and spiritually dangerous mistakes is confusing the source with the channel. The channel is the visible form through which something arrives. A job, a business, a client, an inheritance, a sale. The source, however, is the invisible principle that sustains all forms, the spirit that gives origin, the intelligence that provides, the love that organizes. As long as you confuse these 2 levels, you will live in fear. You will tremble every time the market changes, a door closes, or an external condition shifts, because you have placed your faith in the channel, not in the source. But when you understand that forms change and the source remains, you access a peace that transcends the logic of the world. You may lose a job, and yet know that you have not lost your provision. A business partnership may end, and yet you understand that your flow of abundance has not ended, because your supply never really came from those names or structures. It came and still comes from God, the permanent cause behind all apparent causes. This understanding is not merely theological. It is a practical tool for surviving and thriving in times of change. When you anchor your security in the invisible source, you no longer depend emotionally on any person or system. You can be grateful for the channels without idolizing them. You can enjoy what you receive without clinging. You can adapt with confidence, knowing that the intelligence that has sustained you until now has not withdrawn. This gives you freedom, dignity, and clarity in decision-making. It allows you to say yes or no with serenity, because you are not operating from fear of loss, but from the certainty that nothing essential can be lacking. This teaching is masterfully condensed in Psalm 23, one of the most powerful spiritual affirmations ever written. When you say, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," you are affirming a profound psychological truth. I do not depend on people, governments, bosses, or clients. My provision comes from the eternal principle of life, which guides me, sustains me, and feeds me at all times. This phrase is more than religious poetry. It is mental re-education. It allows you to reprogram the subconscious to operate from security, not scarcity. I invite you to examine each line carefully, because every word is a capsule of power. The Lord is my shepherd. Not was or will be, but is. That is present now, at this moment. It is not a distant or theoretical God, but an inner guide, an active intelligence that cares for and directs you. The shepherd knows the path, provides pasture, and defends against danger. This image must be rooted in your subconscious. There is wisdom that knows your needs better than you do, anticipates your steps, and is already working on your behalf. I shall not want. This statement is total. It does not say I shall want less or I shall want little. It says nothing. It means that everything necessary for your well-being, material, emotional, spiritual, is already included in your divine provision. Your task is not to force reception, but to accept this truth as a mental law. Repeat it, meditate on it, embody it. When your mind accepts that nothing is lacking, you begin to live without anxiety. And this peace, far from making you passive, makes you more receptive, more creative, more bold. He makes me lie down in green pastures. Divine provision is not loud or agitated. It does not require desperation. It arrives through serenity. You do not need to push or manipulate. You only need to align your thought with this frequency. The rest mentioned in the psalm is not inactivity, but trust. The trust that good is already on its way. Still waters symbolize clear ideas, balanced emotions, and calm thoughts. When you allow the source to guide you, your mind becomes like these waters, transparent, deep, stable. From that clarity, you make better decisions, and where there are clear decisions, there are prosperous results. He restores my soul. The soul is the bridge between spirit and form. When your soul is disturbed, nothing flows. But when it is restored, that is, reconnected to the source, everything begins to align. Opportunities arrive, relationships improve, health strengthens, finances recover. Not because the world has changed, but because your inner world has changed. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. This verse is crucial. It does not deny crises, valleys, or shadows, but denies their power to cause fear. Where there is awareness of the source, there is no room for panic. You can endure deep changes, losses, relocations, bankruptcies, separations, without losing your center. Because your center is not external. It is in the inner presence that never changes. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Divine provision does not depend on human conditions, even in the midst of opposition, even when others envy, criticize, or ignore you. You can prosper because your sustenance is not tied to circumstances. It is connected to a source that transcends all interference. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, not occasionally, not only if everything goes well, but every day. This promise is more than comfort. It is a mental formula. If you repeat it with faith, imprint it on your subconscious, you will begin to experience a different reality. Your external world reflects your inner convictions. To help you establish this awareness of a permanent source, I present the following declarations of spiritual security in times of change. Use them each morning before facing the day, and whenever you feel fear before a change, loss, or uncertainty. They are not for feeling better, but to train your mind to remain firm in the invisible. Declarations of spiritual security. My supply does not depend on people, jobs, or economies. God is my only source, and His provision is constant. Forms change, but the flow remains. I am guided, sustained, and provided for by perfect wisdom. Nothing is lacking, for everything necessary is included in my consciousness. Today I trust the channel that will open. I do not cling. I do not resist. What closes makes way for what is right. What leaves frees space for the best. I am at peace, I am in flow, I am in God. Repeat these affirmations firmly, not as one who hopes, but as one who knows. Not as a plea, but as conviction. Because what you declare with faith becomes law for your subconscious, and your subconscious executes with mathematical precision the image you hold as true. Are you ready to release your faith in the visible and anchor it in the eternal? In the next chapter, we will descend into the most practical ground of manifestation, jobs and businesses as arenas to express abundance. For God works not only in prayer, but also in contracts, interviews, and sales. Chapter 8, Prayers for Provision. The Word as a creative instrument. Scientific prayer techniques to attract what is just and necessary. How to make proper requests without anxiety. Most people pray from fear. They ask for what they want with the correct words, but with an inner vibration that negates their own request. Begging is not praying. Pleading is not praying. Speaking in desperation is not praying. True prayer is not an attempt to convince a distracted higher power. It is internal alignment, a firm declaration, a mental command that sets in motion the invisible laws of the subconscious mind. In New Thought and all authentic Christian metaphysics, prayer is not pleading, it is creating. The Word is the instrument with which you shape the universal mental substance. Whenever you pray from certainty, not from need, you are planting an image that the subjective mind begins to replicate in your outer world. It is fundamental to understand that proper prayer is not a secret technique. It is a mental posture. You pray well when your words are backed by conviction, when the tone of your inner voice is that of an heir, not a beggar, not supplication but affirmation, not anxiety but peace. Prayer is effective when it is logical, ordered, and emotionally coherent. How to pray correctly to attract provision. Do not pray from lack, saying, "God, please send me a job, I'm desperate," reinforces an image of desperation. The subconscious does not hear words, it receives emotional images. Do not pray with attachment, declaring, "Lord, give me this position in this company, I will not accept anything else," limits the channels. The universe has infinite ways to respond, but you confine it to one. Prayer must be specific in essence, but open in form. Do not pray without faith. If you pray and then spend the day doubting, complaining, or anxiously checking for results, you neutralize your request. Faith plants the seed and rests. A scientific prayer begins with recognition, continues with affirmation, and ends with gratitude. Recognize the source. Affirm the desired good as already present. Give thanks because it has already been granted on the mental plane. This is the invisible structure that produces visible results. Prayer examples for provision, for employment. God is my unique source of provision. In your mind, the perfect job already exists for me, aligned with my talents, vocation, and need. That job is already on its way to me. I receive it with gratitude, peace, and faith. The doors open. The right people appear. The interview flows with grace. I am guided to make clear decisions. I am not alone. I am at the center of divine will. I give thanks now for my new employment, in perfect order and with perfect pay, so it is. For business, prosperous Spirit of God guides my business. Each client that comes is an expression of divine circulation. Every service I offer is a seed multiplying good. My business is not mine. It is a channel of good for many. Therefore, it prospers, grows, and expands. I do not compete, I cooperate. I do not force, I flow. My ideas are guided. My decisions are wise. Divine order governs my finances. Nothing is lacking. Everything just reaches me. I am surrounded by opportunities. I give thanks now for the visible expansion of my business. So it is. For housing, infinite intelligence has already prepared the perfect home for me, a harmonious, safe space, fair in price, and appropriate for my current stage. That home already exists, and my path to it clears now. Every barrier dissolves. Every delay turns to speed. The contract, the place, and the conditions are already in order. I do not act from fear. I do not rush. I follow peace. I receive clear signs. The ideal house recognizes me and waits for me. I give thanks now for living there, so it is. These prayers are mental instruments, not magical formulas. Repeat them daily, morning and night, with firm intention, calm breathing, and clear visualization. Do not be impatient. Repetition forms deep impressions. Where there is sustained impression, there is manifestation. Chapter 9, Imagination as a Tool for Creation. If every day, without fail, without excuses, you sit for a few minutes to clearly imagine scenes of concrete abundance, you will see results. Not because your imagination works magic, but because your subconscious begins to emit decisions, ideas, impulses, and connections that materialize the dominant image. To facilitate this process, here is a visualization guide for full accounts and signed contracts. Do it in a quiet place, eyes closed, breathing calmly. Do not try to see perfectly. Try to feel the scene as real. That is what engraves the image in your deep mind. Visualization. Guide, full accounts and signed contracts. Close your eyes, take 3 deep breaths. Mentally say, "My mind is clear, receptive, and powerful." Visualize a computer open. On the screen, your bank account. Look at the balance. It is higher than expected. See it clearly. Read the numbers. Imagine the color, the shape of the screen. Feel the calm surprise of seeing this balance. Say, "Thank you, God, for this perfect provision." Now imagine a contract on a table, for a job, lease, or sale according to your need. See your name printed, your signature already placed. Feel the texture of the paper. Hear someone say, "It's approved. Everything is in order." Breathe in the relief and satisfaction. Place your hand on your heart. Say, "This image is already mine. The universe is already working on it. My subconscious has already accepted it. Thank you, thank you, thank you." Take a deep breath, open your eyes slowly. Do not comment on the visualization. Do not analyze it. Let it act as a seed in fertile soil. Perform this guide every morning before starting your activities and every night before sleep. Sleep is a powerful moment to imprint images in the deep mind. Defend your inner image as a treasure. It is your next reality. Your subconscious does not give you what you ask for with words. It gives you what you show with consistent images. Are you ready to discipline your imagination? In the next chapter, we explore a silent but decisive law, gratitude as a magnet for continuity. What you give thanks for multiplies, and what you do not recognize fades away. Chapter 10. Employment comes to you. Do not seek in anxiety. Invoke from certainty. Real stories of unexpected jobs after prayer and rest. He who calls with faith receives. Resource: listener testimonials with effective affirmations. One of the areas where modern man's faith is most tested is in the search for employment. Where money is scarce, bills pile up, and external pressure becomes suffocating, the mind tends to revert to the old habit of fear. Frantic job searches, mass resume submissions, forced interviews, and pleas disguised as enthusiasm multiply. Yet the result is usually the same: fatigue, frustration, rejection. Why? Because a mind acting from desperation does not emit a creative frequency. It acts from need, not power, and where there is need without faith, there is stagnation. Those who wish to attract a job through the law of the Spirit must not seek with anxiety, but invoke from certainty. They must not beg for an opportunity, but recognize that a perfect role already exists for them in the mind of the divine. You are not unemployed. You are in transit toward an even more appropriate channel of service. This statement is not mere comfort. It is a mental principle. The mind does not respond to shouting. It responds to order. And order begins when you pause, breathe, and declare, "My perfect job already exists. It is being prepared. I am being guided to it. Everything fits. Everything flows. Everything arrives." This does not mean passivity. It is not about crossing your arms and waiting for someone to knock on your door. It means acting from trust, not compulsion. Instead of sending 100 random applications, you dedicate time to prepare your mind. Visualize the outcome. Affirm with faith, and then act. But your action is no longer tinged with urgency. It is guided by intuition. You act with precision, at the right time, from the right mental state. And that makes all the difference. Listen to this real testimony received on one of our radio broadcasts years ago. A single mother, unemployed for 8 months, began practicing a simple affirmation she heard on our program. "The perfect job already belongs to me. The channel opens now. I serve, I receive." She repeated it every morning, even when fear surfaced. She did not do it as a magic formula, but as mental re-education. 15 days later, a friend invited her to an informal meeting. There, she met a businessman who, after a casual conversation, offered her an interview. She was hired a week later. She had not sent a resume or actively sought work, but she had called with faith. And as the law teaches, he who calls with faith receives. This principle has been confirmed in hundreds of cases. An older woman, excluded from the labor market, refused to look for work, believing no one would value her. I told her, "Do not search, declare it, imagine it, feel it. Then act when clarity arises." For 20 days she wrote each morning, "My just and worthy job arrives now. I'm guided, I'm employed, I am useful." On day 21, a former student contacted her to offer a position as an educational coordinator. It had not been planned. It had been attracted. Her faith had prepared the ground. Why does this happen? Because the subconscious mind does not distinguish between employment and faith. It only responds to the sustained, emotionally charged image. If you see yourself rejected, incapable, or lost, that image dominates your vibration and shapes your experience. But if you see yourself as useful, necessary, called by good, your subconscious will begin attracting ideas, people, and channels that connect you with that result. You do not force it, you allow it. Employment comes to you not because you chase it, but because you are already the right channel to receive it. Repeat with me. I do not seek desperately, I receive wisely. The Spirit has already prepared my place. My mind accepts it. My path opens. So it is. Now I want to share a series of listener testimonials, people who over the years shared with us the affirmations that changed their lives. They are not presented as spectacle, but as evidence. Each one reveals a law in action. Take them as inspiration, not literal imitation. Your mind needs living words, not borrowed formulas. Testimonial 1, Julio, electrical technician. For months, I prayed from anxiety, but nothing moved. I began saying, my work is secure, my pay is fair, my talent is useful. By the third week, a company I had worked for years ago called me for a new project. I had not remembered contacting them. They said, "We thought of you because your name came to mind." I knew it was the result of my constant affirmation. Testimonial 2, Elena, graphic designer. I had no clients for a long time. I felt invisible. I heard on your program the phrase, "Those who need my work are looking for me now." I repeated it every morning, imagining signing contracts and receiving calls. Within days, a small agency offered me remote work. Everything changed. Testimonial 3, Ricardo, driver, no vehicle, no job, no hope. You said, "Do not look at what is missing, look at what is coming." I clung to the phrase, "God gives me the vehicle, gives me the job, gives me the path." A month later, a friend offered to share his car in exchange for a percentage. Today, I have daily income. It all started in the mind. These experiences share a common factor, faith expressed in living words. That is why I invite you to practice a clear, simple affirmation daily, repeated with intention. Your age, training, or context does not matter. The perfect job for you already exists. Your task is not to create it. It is to align, tune in, and declare. Employment comes to you when you mentally become the person who can receive it. Are you ready to call with faith and receive without anxiety? In the next chapter, we will explore an even deeper law, the circulation of everything received. Abundance is not accumulated. It is set in motion. Chapter 11, Business under the Law of Good. How to prosper without competing. Every business must be born from the love of service. The invisible client is already waiting for your idea. Resource: Affirmations for sales, success, and harmonious partnerships. In common thinking, business is considered a struggle. We are taught to compete, stand out, dominate, and beat the competition. This vision has contaminated the minds of many entrepreneurs who, even with good intentions, begin their projects from tension, calculation, and suspicion. But the person who operates by the law of good does not compete. He cooperates. He does not despair over gaining market share. He trusts that his perfect clients are already seeking him. He does not operate from scarcity, but from an abundance of channels. For a business to prosper, it must be founded not on fear of failure, but on love of service. When you decide to start a venture, you are not simply selling products or services. You are establishing a channel through which good can flow in an organized way. Spiritually speaking, your business is an extension of your consciousness, and your consciousness emits a vibration. That vibration will attract clients, collaborators, suppliers, and experiences according to the level of order, clarity, and purpose you have mentally sown. The most common mistake when starting a business is not technical, it is mental. These phrases, even when unspoken, operate in the background like programs. They are seeds of failure planted from the beginning. And like all repeated thoughts, they eventually manifest the reality you feared. The law does not distinguish between fears and desires. It fulfills what you declare with conviction, whether light or shadow. If you want your business to prosper under the law of spirit, you must begin by redefining your starting point. Do not ask, "What can I sell?" Ask instead, "What problem can I solve with joy, consistency, and excellence?" Do not focus on the competition, focus on coherence. Do not look sideways, look inward. What gift wants to express itself through me? What idea excites me to serve? What kind of help can I offer that benefits others and myself? When you answer from this awareness, you do not start a business. You start an economic ministry, and where there is ministry, there is blessing. The universe honors every function aligned with service. A 46-year-old woman with no commercial experience wrote to me, telling how she had opened a small sewing workshop. Her friends told her nobody pays for that anymore, that everything is online, that people only buy cheap. But she had a clear vision. She wanted to help older women repair and beautify their clothes with style. She did not try to compete with big stores, did not lower prices out of fear, and did not improvise. She prayed every day, declaring, "My hands bless, my ideas serve, my work attracts what is just." In 6 months, she had a waiting list. She had not sold a product, She had offered a solution with soul. This is business under the law of good. Another case? A young graphic designer, frustrated by lack of work, decided to create design packages for small startups. He did not copy others' models. He imagined someone just starting. Clarity, identity, simplicity. He shared his vision on social media without spending on advertising, but with a clean message: "I am here to help you start well." Within 3 weeks, he had bookings for the entire month. He did not compete, he did not undercut, he did not despair. He served with purpose. These testimonials are not coincidences. They are the expression of a universal law. What is born from service endures. What is born from greed fades. A business founded on love for the good, for the client, the team, the environment, and the owner, becomes a channel of lasting prosperity. The law does not support ego, but it does support sincere dedication. It is also important to understand that success in business is not measured only in figures. It is measured in peace, flow, reputation, and harmonious relationships. You can bill a lot and live exhausted, insecure, and in conflict. That is not prosperity, it is tension disguised as success. But if every day you work with joy, if your dealings are clean, if your word is law, and your product blesses, then your business is a spiritual work. Even if it takes time to take off, it will grow with deep roots, because it is sustained by law, not by market anxiety. When you present yourself with clarity, consistency, and goodwill, the invisible client becomes visible. The Spirit unites need with response. To support you in this process of mental order, I present a series of affirmations for success in sales and harmonious partnerships. Use them every morning before opening your business or contacting clients. Repeat them before any meeting, interview, or commercial conversation, not as superstition, but as programming. Words repeated with faith direct invisible action. Affirmations for business and sales success. My business is a channel of good. What I offer blesses. The right clients are already seeking me. I allow myself to be found. My word is clear. My dealings are fair. My service is useful. I do not compete. I cooperate. I do not force. I flow. Every sale is a circulation of value, not a struggle. The partnerships that arrive are harmonious, balanced, and prosperous. I attract honest collaborators, grateful clients, and fair results. My mind is clear. My purpose is firm. My provision is secure. I assure you, if you sustain these affirmations with consistency and honesty, if you work every day without fear or complaint, and if you treat every client as a channel of God, your business will grow, not necessarily as economics books predict, nor as the world measures, but with roots, peace, and meaning. And that, dear reader, is true success. Are you ready to stop competing and start serving? In the next chapter, we will close the cycle with the key that sustains everything: spiritual circulation, because abundance does not stagnate. It expands when you share it. Chapter 12, the true meaning of provision. It's not about hoarding, but circulating. Wealth is peace, freedom, joy, and trust. How to keep your mind tuned to the invisible law. Resource: 21-day plan for continuous awareness of provision. When human beings forget their spiritual origin, they begin to accumulate out of fear. They believe that by gathering more objects, more coins, more titles, or more properties, they are securing their future. But true provision does not consist in what is hoarded. It consists in what is allowed to circulate without fear. What you retain with fear becomes a burden. What you allow to flow returns multiplied. Because wealth in its highest form is not quantity, it is quality of consciousness. It is not volume of goods, it is inner freedom. It is not external display, it is alignment with the law of good. When we say that God is our source, we are not speaking of a distant entity that sends material things at will. We are speaking of a permanent, intelligent, and generous principle that sustains all visible forms from the invisible. This source does not run out, does not contract, does not punish or reward arbitrarily. It is a law, like the law of gravity. And its operation is simple. You receive according to what you accept as true in your inner world. Accept fear, receive scarcity. Accept trust, receive provision. Accept conflict, receive loss. And accept peace, receive expansion. Your visible world is an exact mirror of the prevailing state of your consciousness. But there is one more step. It is not enough to accept the idea of divine provision as a dogma or a hope. It must become a sustained attitude. True abundance is not an isolated event, like a stroke of luck or an unexpected inheritance. It is a constant silent current that flows through your aligned thought. You do not need to always have large sums in the bank to feel provision. You need a mind trained to see, affirm, and allow good, even when the world says otherwise. That is continuous provision, knowing without a shadow of doubt that what is necessary always comes at the right moment, in the right way. Wealth. Wealth is not the accumulation of money. Wealth is mental peace. It is freedom to choose without fear. It is joy for what you have and what you share. It is deep trust in the uninterrupted flow of good. I have known people with millions in their accounts who live as slaves of fear, unable to rest, trust, or give. And I have seen humble men walk with dignity, give with joy, and live securely, without obsession or anxiety. Who are the truly rich? You are called to total wealth, not just material, but emotional, spiritual, relational. And that wealth begins in a mind that no longer yields to the old thought of scarcity. You cannot live from a sense of lack and expect to receive. You cannot repeat ideas of scarcity, even in irony or resignation, without inviting the universe to confirm them. The law responds not only to your words, but to the emotional tone with which you speak them. If you say, "I don't have enough," even jokingly, if you repeat it, if you feel it as real, that sets your vibrational field, and from there, your experience is constructed. How to keep your mind tuned to the law of invisible provision. Mind your language. Eliminate all forms of complaint, criticism of money, government, or the economy from your speech. Not because these issues don't exist, but because you no longer want to be an echo of collective scarcity thinking. You have decided to be cause, not effect. Choose your company. You cannot walk toward abundance with those who love to wallow in mental misery. This is not about judging anyone. It is about wisely choosing the frequency with which you wish to associate. Establish a daily habit of affirmation, visualization, and gratitude. Not as an empty ritual, but as a discipline of alignment. Your mind, like a garden, requires constant care. Planting a good idea is not enough. You must water it daily. To facilitate this practice, I present a 21-day plan for continuous awareness of provision. This plan is a simple but powerful guide to imprint a new relationship with money, work, spending, and circulation on your subconscious. It does not matter if you are currently in debt, unemployed, or insecure. If you apply this plan sincerely and consistently, you will see results. 21-day plan for awareness of provision. Days 1-7. Deprogramming scarcity. Repeat aloud 3 times a day. I remove from my mind every belief in lack. I am sustained by the eternal source. Today I release all fear of lacking. Write a list of scarcity phrases you have repeated or heard, and then cross them out one by one with the phrase, I no longer accept this as truth. Days 8-14. Affirmation of provision. Repeat upon waking and before sleeping. Everything necessary for my well-being comes to me with ease. I am guided, I am provided for, I am sustained. Visualize a scene of economic peace, paying calmly, giving joyfully, receiving with gratitude. Feel this scene as already fulfilled. Days 15-21. Conscious circulation. Each day perform an act of giving, time, word, money, attention, not as sacrifice but as sowing. Affirm, what I give returns multiplied. Good circulates and comes back stronger. Today I give with joy. Each night note 3 blessings you received that day. Train your mind to see provision in the everyday. This plan is not a magical promise. It is progressive mental re-education. Done without omissions, haste, or skepticism, your subconscious will begin to operate from a new pattern. That pattern will be answered by the invisible law with opportunities, ideas, resources, and people that reflect your new vibration. Remember, you do not live from what you have. You live from what you believe you deserve to receive. It is not about hoarding. It is about flowing. It is not about protecting yourself from the world. It is about trusting the source. It is not about control. It is about alignment. Your provision is not the result of physical effort, family inheritance, or networking. It is the reflection of your mental state, and that state can be transformed starting now. Are you willing to live in harmony with the invisible law of abundance? In the conclusion, I will recap the fundamental principles of this book and give you a final declaration. a closing formula to seal this awareness and carry it with you in every decision, every expense, every income, and every word. Because abundance, dear reader, is not an event. It is a state of the soul.